12-14, and we need to roll call.
Let's mark. Board Member Yankovic.
Yes.
Board Member Doyle.
Yes.
Board Member Howe.
Here.
Board Member Lennox.
Here.
Board Member McClure. Here. Board Member Springer.
Here.
Board Member Catlin and Larkin are absent, and Chair Reagan.
Here. We need to approve, motion to approve the absence of Shelley and Mike.
I move to excuse the absence.
Okay, Mark, is there a second? Support. Mike Springer supported that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And we need approval of the agenda with the one addition to new business. 7C will be economic development. So that change will need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, Cliff, is there a second?
Second.
April, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And you got a copy of the minutes for the previous meetings, so we need a motion to approve that.
Make a motion.
Okay, Mike Springer, is there a second?
Second.
Cliff? And any corrections or comments on the minutes from the previous meeting? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And Sue's not here for the treasurer's report. Yeah, we'll make a note that Mike Larkin came in 2 minutes late. But he's here.
My Dennis.
You got an agenda for him?
And I've got the financial reports.
Okay, so Mark's got the financial report, treasurer's report. Go ahead, Mark.
You have two statements. You have the October 8 financial statement and then November 3 financial statement. Behind both of them are the bills that were paid. In terms of the financial statement, I'm just going to go over the November one. I can go backwards if you'd like me to answer any questions. But we had a beginning balance of $396,776.49. Most of the TIFA revenue is in at $578,972.80. You can see the various expenditures totaling $45,000, and then an ending balance of $930,402.56. You also have, I think you requested at your last meeting, that the capital outlay that is pending that you've approved be listed, and so that's listed at the bottom. One note there is the Avery Street project, $110,000. That was actually from last year, from your last year's budget. And then in this year's budget, you have $150,000 total that you budgeted. So you've allocated 110 of that so far.
Okay, any questions for Mark? Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Cliff, is there a second?
No, second.
Mike Springer, any further discussion on the treasurer's report? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And public comments for items not on the agenda. Speak now or hold your peace. Okay, old business, any update on the downtown development plan? Everyone's got a copy of that in the packet. South Monroe parking.
We think that the right-of-way that the railroad has on the property behind Lowell, we think that that no longer exists. As we've looked at the deed, it talks about a right-of-way so long as the tracks are used for railroad purposes. So we're taking the position that the right-of-way no longer exists. I had a conversation with the railroad company about that, and he said you could take that position. What you could do then is write a letter to the company, and they would, their legal department would look at it, and then we could ask that they concur in that position. And That I think might be step 2. Step 1 is I've discussed it with the city attorney, and the city attorney is having a conversation with the title company that handled the transaction during the last transaction when it changed hands and changed owners. And he wants to get from them whether or not the insurance company would defend the title to the property and whether or not they take the position that the right-of-way no longer exists. So that he thinks is maybe the easier course of action, that if the title company is going to insure it and defend it in that manner, then we don't have to take the second step of the railroad company. So,
isn't there a court someplace that could give you a definitive answer?
a court we could run it through the court process. That might be step 3 if the railroad company wouldn't voluntarily concede that the railway no longer exists. That might be step 3.
Okay.
So that's where we are. I talked with the city attorney again yesterday. He said he had not heard from the title, not yesterday, Tuesday. He had not heard back from the title company, and I asked him to follow up again with them. So he said he would do that.
Okay, no action on that, so, from Jeff Aldring's, perspective, is he gonna wait till it's all, all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, or?
I've not talked to Jeff lately.
Okay.
The last I heard from him was even if he said even if he had a letter from the railroad company saying that, there's no longer a right-of-way on there, that would be fine with him.
Okay.
That's kind of where we came up with step 2. I wrote an email yesterday, again, I keep saying yesterday. I took yesterday off to blow leaves out of the air. It's been a whole day. Tuesday, I sent Jeff an email that basically gave you all the information that I gave you today.
Okay.
And Jeff has responded since then.
Okay, liquor license update, that process?
There's a copy of that in your packet. You'll see the change that we made based on your input. We went to the planning commission. There wasn't a quorum for the planning commission to talk to them about having them be part of the notification process. We'll talk with them again on Monday night, and I have discussed it with council. The council is happy with the process. So once I hear from the planning commission, we'll finalize it and get it out to you, and that'll be the process that we want.
Okay. Chamber of Commerce, new business, funding for marketing and Christmas. Liz, will you give us an update on that? I know we got some information in our packets too.
I'm going to hand out to you the worksheet that shows you how the promotions and marketing budget is broken down, the budget that you adopted, and you're in the next column. Next is next year, which is actually this year.
We're laughing, yes, this was last month, for those of you who were here. It's that time of year. Actually, we're a little late requesting the marketing budget, but we've been doing the marketing, the community-wide marketing for about 8 years now. We feel it's a very limited budget of $50,000 a year total that we get. Usually $25,000 from the DDA and $25,000 from the Lowell Area Community Fund. And we use it in various ways. We spend it on cable, we spend it on radio advertising, billboard advertising, local billboards, meaning billboards that we created and put around town for major events, newsprint, inserts, Rainier Biz Press, Lowell Buyer's Guide, those sort of things. And a couple events that are really big that, I would say most of the money that we get from the DDA can go towards is the Girls' Night Out events, which have become extremely popular and pretty good for the businesses that participate in it financially. They do see an increase in their business because of these events. And Christmas through Lowell and the Harvest Celebration. Those are all local events. But pretty much we're asking for $25,000. We did get a commitment from the Lowell Area Community Fund for $30,000. They did not fund the $45,000 that we asked for this last time, but they did go up to $30,000. And we plan on spending the money in the same ways that we've done it for the last few years. Our marketing committee will be getting together, and we're going to reevaluate how we're doing things, and look and make sure we're on the right track, or if we do need to make some changes or adjustments to that. Any questions about that?
There's no dues that go into this? It's strictly the money from the DDA and...
Yes, that's correct. You mean membership dues?
Yeah.
Right, there are no chamber membership dues that go into this. I mean, we do marketing on other events. I mean, we still add money to our events that come from the membership dues and whatnot. But this is strictly above and beyond marketing that we wouldn't do if we weren't able to have these funds. And I guess you might say too, for some of the small businesses, some of them don't have any funds to market with, so for them it's a welcome, they love it, and you can see that from the comments that we received.
Any questions for Liz at all?
I know that we're constantly looking for proof of effectiveness of the marketing, which is hard to do, but the participation in Girls' Night Out from the businesses, Liz, isn't it? There's like 40 of them now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a really neat thing that's happened in the last, let's see, we just did the fall and the spring. The spring of this year, the West End got really involved, and we have pestered them to be a part of the events for a long time. And we had one of the businesses say, okay, we'll get involved, and they kind of took the bull by the horn. And so with their help and their assistance, we were able to get probably about 10 or 12 businesses on the West End that participated, and we added shuttle rides to it in the spring, just one shuttle bus. This past fall, we had 3 shuttle buses that shuttled people up, from uptown to downtown, all the way up to the Flat River Outreach Ministries. They were involved as well. So the participation in Girls' Night Out has become pretty amazing. Not only that, it has kind of set the stage for many other communities to follow suit. So it's always interesting to see how that goes. But because of our Girls' Night Out and the success of it, other communities are kind of following and doing the same thing. So you always have to try to stay ahead of them and be on top of things. But yeah, it's a great event. It's a great event.
I'm switching my hat a little bit here just because I own a business, and the thing with the shuttles has been a really good breakthrough, because as you may or may not be aware, it was hard to get some of the businesses to participate. They always felt like, oh, it's a downtown thing, everything's about the downtown, and we certainly never stopped them or tried to prohibit them from being part of it. But now with the shuttles, they really feel like they're part of it, and they're geeked about it. Mm-hmm. The shuttles came from Main Street Inn, the YMCA, and
the Laurel's account.
Laurel's account.
Right. Yeah, so they're all ready to be part of it again. They probably had more fun than the downtown people. So it was a good night. I did leave town for that event. I didn't want to see what we got created. So that is that. Do you want me to keep going?
Sure, if you got more to say.
Well, I mean the Christmas, or do you want to do it separate? Okay. So then the next thing is the Christmas activities that we've done for many, many years now. And we're asking for $6,200 to support Christmas, and there's a budget, kind of shows you what we do with all the things for Christmas and the Santa visits on the Lowell showboat. But you can also see that we get lots of in-kind contributions, so it's not just DDA money, it's volunteers, few sponsorships, that sort of thing. So it's a pretty neat event. Again, I guess I'll tell you this till I can't tell you this anymore. I think events drive economic development. I think if we weren't doing them, I don't know who would be doing them. So that's where it's at. We bring thousands and thousands of people into the community of Lowell. And I mean, I just think that's a proven. You can just look around when you go to an event and you can see it happening.
What have we given you in the past for this? Is it just the same amount?
For Christmas, Brian, or for the marketing? It's the same amount. I think it was the same amount last year. Yeah.
So 2 requests then, one for the marketing. That was at refresh my memory, did we do like a 2 or 3 year thing a few years ago? So this is just an ongoing thing from the 25,000.
No, I think I have to come back and ask you every year.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that's how that goes.
Okay.
We like to think it was, a 3-year thing, but no, we come back every year.
So 2 requests then. I'd like to maybe make that separate in 2 separate motions. Somebody want to make that motion for the?
I can start out with the motion
marketing.
for marketing.
Okay.
Support that.
And is there a second?
That's it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
So noted. And then 6,200 for the Christmas, through the Christmas season donation for the use of the chamber.
You know I'll make it.
April?
She likes Christmas.
And is there a second?
Support.
Okay, Cliff. And any further discussion on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Downtown clock repairs and upgrades, second item on the new business.
We, if you haven't noticed, the downtown clock has slowly gotten a little bit behind and then a little bit more behind and then eventually it just stopped. And we spent some time, first of all, trying to figure out where the key was and the controls. But after getting through all of that, we had the Burden Company come out. They're the sole supplier for this clock and the sole repair company. They're very, very busy. But we got them out. They gave us an estimate. We have to replace the mechanisms inside the clock. While we're doing that, we think it makes sense that we replace the hands and also the glass on the outside. That comes at a total cost of $4,580. In order to get the process moving, actually to go back, the DDA purchased the clock. I think it was about $15,000 when it was purchased. Somewhere around '97, it was part of the streetscape improvements that were done for a larger bond project that most of you were involved with. But in order to get the repairs and get things moving, get the components ordered, I went to the city council and just said, "Council, would you be willing to fund these repairs?" If the DDA says no, I'm going to go to the DDA and ask them to fund the repairs. But if they say no, will you fund it because I want to get the mechanism ordered and move forward? They said yes. They said go ahead and move forward and get the mechanisms ordered. So that has happened. As soon as they come in, they will be out and install the mechanisms, new hands and new glass. We don't have a schedule for that yet, but we know that as soon as they get the parts, then we'll be out here. But I'm asking whether or not the DDA would fund that out of capital outlay. It is a major component of downtown, a major component of the streetscape, and that would be part of the, if you did fund it out of the capital outlay budget.
Where's this repair outfit from? Is that who supplied the clock to us?
That is who supplied the clock to us. They are, I think in Illinois or I don't think they're in Michigan. They tend to serve the entire Midwest.
And this is just out of curiosity. They're the sole support for it because it's their clock, or they're the only company that makes town square clocks, or, you know?
My understanding is that they are the only ones that work on this type of clock. Like, you know, this is a...
So if there are other brands out there, they work on the other brands
whatever.
Also, you think?
I don't know. I'm not
Okay.
certain on that.
Just curious. And the curiosity comes from, will there be a time when we need to replace it? You know, is there somebody else out there? Will this outfit not be there anymore?
Yeah,
And
that's a good question.
just trying to
Yeah.
think down that a little bit.
I'm not certain in Ron's. I mean, we can, you know, if Ron has some answers, yeah. You may know a little bit more about clocks.
I met with the area representative that has done the repairs on the clock, and he covers Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. That's why it took so long to get him up here to take a look at it. And the original controller for the clock was located in the Light and Power Building. And Mark referred to the fact that I was trying to find a key to get to the controller, and I was talking via cell phone with the repair individual, and he was going to try and walk me through to see if there was something that we could do to troubleshoot it. And then he mentioned that he thought that the controller for the clock was moved from Light and Power into the base of the clock itself, which he said was about a $3,000 expenditure just to get that controller. And that controller is very proprietary to Vernon clocks. Talking with him, the clock company's been around for a long period of time. He told me, and I can't remember, it's been 75 years or something like that that they've been in business, and anticipating they'll be in business for quite some time. He said that their clock, you know, obviously I'm getting it from the repairmen, and he said that, you know, they're very proud of the accuracy of their clocks and how long they last. They intend to be around for a long period of time. So I spent some time talking with him on the phone, and he showed up here, and he pulled the face off, took a look at the clock, and he says, "Oh my gosh, this is the original guts of the clock, are the original guts." And he said, "You've got an updated controller. I think that if we do the major upgrade on the clock, it's going to last for at least as long as the original, probably longer." So we made improvements to the mechanism on the interior of the clock. He recommended getting new hands, and they've made significant improvements in the Lexan covers that go on the clock also. He said, "You can see how these are kind of yellowish," and he said, "I would recommend that you replace those also." So in a nutshell, that was pretty much the discussion that I had with the clock company over about the last month and a half.
So all these upgrades, repairs, they're all mechanical stuff as opposed to electrical, electronic, the controls? And
yeah, he's...
some of the gears worn out or bearings or what have you?
Right, the guts of the clock are pretty well worn out, but he said the controller it was upgraded probably 2 or 3 years ago. He remembers, as soon as he showed up, he said, I remember replacing this controller and putting it out here instead of having it inside the Light and Power building. So he said, yeah, controller's good, that should last forever, that's just electronic components. The mechanical components in the clock are what really wore out.
Who does the routine maintenance, annual maintenance?
Is there any?
Yeah.
There typically isn't, but he's the person that has done the maintenance on it. And like I say, he covers Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. I didn't ask the question, you know, how often have you come up to maintain it or look at it or whatever? Apparently it was my predecessor, Dan, was a person that would periodically get in there, take a look at it, and I anticipate that I and whoever follows me will be doing pretty much the same thing. So he showed me, you know, the controller and some of the things that can be done with it.
I guess just following up on that, to ask them, is there some maintenance schedule that y'all recommend?
Sure.
Drop a 3-in-1 oil here, or
Yeah.
what have you?
Sure, yeah, we can do that, yeah, definitely.
I'd make a motion to fund that. I'll second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. And only, okay, motion by Lonick and a second by Mike Springer. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
7C. Thank you. Economic development.
Economic development. We have had this discussion here for several years, the discussion about bringing on economic development staff and what that might look like. And in fact, if you look at your draft development plan, we went through that prioritization process, and community development staff was a part of that. It was part of the Tier 1 planning goals. We hadn't worked out the details of what that might look like, but it was one of your Tier 1 planning goals. Concurrently, there has been a group working on a project called Flat River Connect, and I've asked Liz if she could just give you a sort of a 2-minute rundown of Flat River Connect, because we think that our discussion about community development, economic development staff, and Flat River Connect might have a connection to it. At some point in time, you're going to get a more formal presentation on Flat River Connect, but we wanted to at least give you sort of a 2-minute rundown on that. So, Liz, thank you.
I was going to say, I'm sure like my board members have heard this because we talk about it quite a bit, but a couple years ago, we did a vision, a community vision. It's called the Greater Lowell Community Vision. One of the major components that came out of that was economic development. Businesses wanted to see more effort put forward to, fill up our buildings downtown and bring in other manufacturers or what have you. So from that, our group continues to meet on a monthly basis, but we also had some other people that were involved with it, and we were looking at some spaces, kind of high-tech spaces called Blue 35, Lab Work Lab out of Grand Rapids. They're what you might call a modern office space that, and I don't want to use the word incubator because people use it and it's not really an incubator space, but it's a space for businesses to work together collectively, network, bring ideas together and that sort of thing. But small businesses, and I'll use Betsy from Adorio as an example. She works out of her home currently, but would like to have an office space, but doesn't really want to have it, I don't know, like Cliff has his space. She wants to have it, with other people. So there's a space that the city has, the head end, and it's been sitting empty for quite a few years now. And this group looked at it and thought, wow, that'd be a great place to start up a business like that. So this group has been meeting. We have private businesses that are involved with our group. It's the city, the chamber, NWork, David Powell. We brought him along, and if you don't know what NWork is, they do office furniture. They don't manufacture it there, but they work with people like Custer and whatnot. And we brought him down to Blue 35 in Grand Rapids, and he had a lot of reservations at first, and then came back and said, I think something like that could probably work in Lowell on a very limited, small. These places that we looked at were pretty big, and they all had, their issues and things. We went to Newaygo and looked at a space there. We looked at one in Traverse City. So anyways, the group this past summer brought together quite a few business people and asked them, are we out to lunch? Do you think something like this would work? So you'd have permanent office space, you'd have meeting rooms, and then you'd have space that you could come in 24/7 and do your work and leave. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? Have any of you ever seen a space like that or heard of any of those spaces? You're all looking
It's
at
kind of like the
deer.
community garages that are setting up. You can go in and you pay a certain fee and you have access to a lift and the tools you might not have. I think you mentioned that other one in Grand Rapids. A friend of mine has actually gone over there. They have 3D printers
Yeah.
and technology that he doesn't have the money for, but he's got some ideas, and he can go there and you can either pay an hourly fee or you can join and pay a monthly fee and have access to tech.
Cooperative?
Yeah, it's that.
Kind of, yeah.
This
yeah.
is like an
I just don't like
office.
to say incubator, because when you think of incubator, you think of somebody that is just kind of starting up and then they're going to get their feathers and they're going to go away. These people don't necessarily go away. They like this kind of work environment. So that's what it's kind of about. But the group has already, oh, go ahead, Mark.
Well, I was just going to add to
Yeah.
that. When I talk about it, I use the analogy of think of it as Snap Fitness, but for business.
There you go.
That you're basically buying a membership to this space, and then you can go in and utilize the equipment. And
I'm sure.
Yeah.
more or less, yes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's okay. No, that's,
I have a group of artists upstairs at my building. David Davis used to teach them up there, and it's kind of like that. If you go up there, it's full of all kinds of art supplies, and they pay a month, they pay rent or whatever, and they have access to the building whenever they want to go up there. And there's all kinds of paints and whatnot, and it's sort of a communal art environment up there. And this would just be an office space with the same kind of idea.
right. So, I mean, the group has worked, pardon me?
Who puts in the capital for it? And how do they recoup it?
Kind of getting to that, Brian. So, this group has met several times, and we brought people in and asked, you know, do you think this is a good idea? Do you think it could work? And you know, what it does come back to is sustainability and who's going to drive it. Who's going to drive it? So, one of the other ideas that you know, we have a budget. We've been working on a budget, so we've worked on lots of things, but one of the ideas that we came about was that a place like this has to be staffed. You know, at first we thought, well, you know, we could do it part-time here and part-time there, but you can't do that. I mean, if you have a group of people, let's say King Milling decided to come in and use the meeting space, and all of a sudden there's technical issues. Well, we got to have somebody there that can fix it and take care of it and get you on track and make you a happy customer. So we felt that, you know, there's this thing about we need somebody to do economic development, and we need a person to run this place as well as recruit businesses that would be a good fit for it. So we kind of thought that that's where the economic development comes in, and I'm going to let Mark take it from there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds good. So you see sort of the connection. Our thought was that if we're going to bring somebody on to do economic development, they could be housed at this place. They could staff it and also work on their economic development activities in and around that model. So getting back to then, what do we want to do with economic development and with a staff person? Obviously, it always comes down to money, and so I have some illustration for you. What I'm passing out is two-sided. The side that doesn't have color on it is the budget that you adopted earlier this year, along with the 5-year targets on them. And then the part with the red and then the yellow lines those are the lines that I am talking with you about. The first thing is that if you look at the red line, this budget is obviously based on assumptions on revenue, and those assumptions on revenue, when we talked about the budget, we don't know what's going to happen with what the impact is going to be on personal property tax elimination and how that's going to impact the DDA. Nobody knows that yet. The state hasn't figured that out. The legislation that passed has said that municipalities would be made whole, but nobody knows how that works yet. So I'm giving you that asterisk that as we build this budget, we don't know. We're making our best estimates on revenue, but we don't know if somehow, even though we were told we were going to be made whole, something happens and we're not entirely made whole. So that's why that's red. If you go all the way down to the bottom to the yellow line, that's net of revenue and expense, and even with the budget that you adopted, we were still looking at net revenue over expense of in the range of $150,000. I'm reading from the non-color side now. It was 143 for this year, and then projected to be 150, then 159, 167, 177. So we built a conservative budget based on not knowing what's going to happen in terms of revenue. If we were to come back to you, okay, I'm going to go back to the color side and give you another important detail. The promotions marketing, you see the $70,000 under the current adopted budget column. That was the worksheet that I just handed out to you. And one of the things that I didn't put in the targets, and I corrected it on the sheet, is that we had $10,000 one time set aside for the business development packet. That was going to be a one-time expense, and I carried that out into the next few years, and so I've actually eliminated that. So that's why that 60,000 is highlighted in yellow. So then the real difference is, what if the DDA funds a full-time position? What would that look like within your budget? What kind of an impact would that have? And I've made two assumptions to show you this. One is that the total cost of a position with benefits would be about $60,000. That's up to $40,000 in salary and about 50% for health insurance and FICA, workers' comp, and retirement, and all those things. I also made an assumption that in the first year, I mean, if we were ready to go, we wouldn't have anybody on board until, even if we were ready to go right now, we wouldn't have anybody on board until January. So I cut that in half in the first year. The other thing that is built into this is that you already pay about $12,000 for my salary and benefits for DDA support. And so that would go away, and that would roll into this position because that person would pick up the DDA responsibilities that I pick up right now. So those are the numbers, that's what it looks like, those are the assumptions that have gone into it. And what I'm looking for today is, I know that there are a lot of unanswered questions, and I'm looking for those questions. But at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is, should we continue to work on this? Should we continue to work on the details and continue to bring those details back to you? I'm not asking to go out and hire somebody right now, but I am saying, should we continue to work on it? And does the collaboration with Flat River Connect, does that concept make some sense as well?
Who is and what is Flat River Connect? Are they?
Right now, Flat River Connect is a collaboration of the chamber, the city, some small business owners. I mean, I can tell you who they are.
So is it a formal organization?
Nothing formal. It's a very informal group. But it's been Liz and I. It's been Betsy Davidson, Pinky McPherson, Rick Cease.
So it's not organized in any way. It's not a corporation, an LLC, and not-for-profit. And
No. Now we've talked about, and you heard Liz say, who drives it, and we've talked about what does that look like, and it could be it could look like a number of things. And I'll tell you, one of the things that I've thrown out is that the city can create a 501c3. The city has the ability to do that, and then to create a board or to name or somehow create the articles of incorporation that would then name a board that would oversee that 501c3. And one of the things that we've talked about is that that board would consist of representatives from the DDA and the city council and chamber board and something like that. So that's one concept. It could be entirely DDA driven, could be entirely chamber driven. It could be a 501c3 that's created on its own without the city creating it. So there's a number. We've had a lot of discussion about who is the driver of that.
The proposed building is a city-owned building.
Yes.
Okay.
The other side of the chamber, isn't it?
At what point, some of the questions that I have, at what point would this be self-perpetuating, they bring in some revenue that they can support themselves? Ideally, in an ideal world, the government wouldn't do this. There would be companies out there that do this for a living, and they could sustain themselves, and they wouldn't have to come to the government or the DDA, to help it. But part of me likes this idea because you can at least physically see the success, because I would expect a report card, of some type, that we're getting these new businesses, and we can call that success for having them, this company started here, and then they eventually bought a building and started it. On the flip side, you can't really measure the marketing.
Right.
So part of that, I like this idea better than radio ads and stuff. But I don't want to, I would hope the DDA would perpetually have to fund it. I would hope they would be self-sustaining after a certain period of time, and maybe give them a 3 or 5 year. But just thinking out loud without having a lot of information about it. But,
Yeah. You're talking about the Fly River Connect portion of it?
Yeah,
Yes.
the whole concept,
Because they'll come to us also for the capital, for the 3D printers, for the desks, and all that stuff. And that all has to be paid back, because we have to do that, we have to pay for ourselves. And so you'd expect whoever's in to pay a big enough thing to pay the depreciation in order to replace that stuff and put money back here. Otherwise, it's the rest of us funding
tax dollars funding
their stuff, and that's not right.
And then eventually, the idea I would hope that you're bringing enough business to sustain itself and sustain this organization and this group, and then kind of keep doing that.
That's the theory behind the DDA, though, is we're to do the economic development, we're to build up the business structure, to bring more people in, to raise our tax structure, to pay back all the stuff that we put in through increased tax base, I guess.
There's two different entities here, right? There's an economic developer and Connect trying to work together. Is that what I see? So eventually,
Yes.
will Connect be able to pay for the economic developer? Right now, you want us to pay for the developer.
I think that you would be paying for the economic developer in perpetuity. That's the
Not
part.
for Connect, it's nothing to do with Connect.
Yeah, not Connect. I think that there would be a point in time where Connect would become self-sufficient, would become self-funding, and would be able to pay for either part of the economic developer's salary, or maybe they are able to hire part-time clerical that covers the Clever Connect, and the economic developer is able to pull out of it, maybe entirely. So I see that transition happening. To answer your question, I don't know when that happens, but that's what we've talked about, is that there is a transition. One of the things that we did was we made a presentation to a focus group. We pulled a focus group together because we have to also figure out whether or not there's a market for this. And so with this focus group, we wanted to find out, is there a market? Are there people out there that will pay memberships that will support this? And
Who's the "we" trying to figure out if there's a market for this?
Liz, myself, Betsy Davidson, Pinky McPherson, Rick Cease, and David.
Should government even be involved with finding out if there is a market for a business?
Well, government hasn't been involved
But
at that point. But
it sounds like it's getting real close, though.
Why wouldn't government be involved in that, Dean?
Because I don't believe that, me and Rand Paul are probably the only ones that don't believe it ought to be.
Well, you have to have business for the city to survive. So I guess I'm not following your thought at all.
It's where the divide has always been.
No.
yeah.
Well, if
let's-
you're proposing to use the city building, the city's involved already.
Let's take Flat River Connect out of the discussion, out of the philosophical discussion about
Yeah,
government
because
involvement
it
in
sounds like
economic
they're
development.
trying to find themselves. They don't know what they are yet. They're not a not-for-profit, they're not a corporation, they're,
Yeah, you need that more formal presentation to get a handle on it.
Right,
So
and-
let's
and-
pull that out of the discussion and just talk about whether or not the DDA funds an economic developer. Government does a lot right now to assist business with business development. We are working right now with the MEDC on a grant for a potential brew pub in the city of Lowell. And if that grant comes through, that actually would be a grant to the city of Lowell. It's federal money that comes to the city of Lowell and then would go toward construction expenses for this brew pub. Somebody has to administer that. I would envision a DDA director, economic development person working to administer that. I could give you a number of other examples, but government constantly plays a role in business development and economic development.
Our last couple meetings, we were talking about the liquor licenses and how the government at the state level kind of shifted gears and created different liquor license regulations to allow for the growth of the whole brew pub industry. And I mean, if you were looking at that with a hardline attitude of they shouldn't be helping business, then yeah, I don't know.
Essentially, it's, you do this on your own. If you didn't have an economic developer, they're going to ask questions like, what are utilities available,
Yeah.
those types of things. So
Yeah,
in
and
that respect, government's got to answer those questions, what, utilities that are available, and spaces and stuff.
Those kinds of things, but it's going the extra mile to actually go to the MEDC and say, would this business qualify for this grant, and if so, what's the process of doing that? And it's being proactive, and I spend as much as my time as I can in being proactive, but if we're going to grow the tax base and if we're going to grow the community, I contend that we need to be more proactive, and I contend that we need to have somebody here pretty darn close to full-time doing that work.
I think the confusion is when we got Connect involved in this. I think we should keep those separate. We should look at the economic developer, because that's, I agree, that's a very positive thing.
Yeah, and we can do that, and we can maybe not create that collaboration at this point, or maybe never create that collaboration. Maybe the answer is no. You're open to and accepting of bringing an economic developer on board, but you don't really want them involved in the collaboration.
No, it could get involved with it, but we're thinking the finances and everything else about the Connect. I think that's where where confusion is. You're thinking about us paying to get an economic developer,
Yes.
nothing with Connect. They could work with Connect.
I think that they could work with Connect, and I think that there's an opportunity to collaborate with Connect, but you might
Yeah.
say,
But as far as the funding,
we don't want them collaborating with Connect, we want them.
But as far as the
to
funding,
develop
it's
it.
with the just the economic developer.
Yeah.
And having an economic developer, I see that as kind of a government role. I didn't quite follow what you were saying, Dean, but if the city's got a building that's empty and they think it would be great to have a barbecue place or a brew pub or, then forbid another flower mill.
Plenty of room for that.
Or auto parts.
Yeah, so, you know, they have to go and wine and dine people to come in here to buy that and start their business. And that's economic development.
Well, I guess I'm not sure where I sit on the economic developer position yet, but I really got confused by, first of all, by this group that sounds like it wants to, I'm not sure what it wants to do yet. And then, should government be involved with trying to determine, is this thing marketable? When somebody didn't even bring it to you yet, to us yet, just is this,
I got you.
okay? So I'm confused by all that. And going back to Flat River Connect, if their vision, if I understood it right, if their vision is this building, doesn't matter who owns it, this facility that provides these things, workspace, some machine tools, what have you, if that's their vision, and if it's economically viable, why the heck does government need to be involved with it at all? I mean, go get your capital like we all had to, and start it up. And if it works, it works, and if it don't, it don't. And the help it gets from an economic developer or any other department in the community would be the same that we all get, or should get. So I see them as, I think I see them as totally separate issues. I think.
They can be totally separate issues, but there can be collaboration. And I think
And there is with everything that we do.
And I know that's confusing, Dean. I think that what we need to do is make a really formal presentation to you. But the part about the economic development person would be a collaboration with Flat River Connect. It would give them the opportunity to recruit business to town into this space, get people there, which in turn you're bringing in business people, professionals, and whatnot. But it also gives that economic development person an opportunity to network with these business people and these professionals, and hopefully it extends out. But I think we're not asking, I mean, the thought was that that person could do dual role. They can work filling that space as well as filling other spaces in the city until it comes to the point where, we do think it could be sustainable, we really do. But we haven't really gotten to that point because it's that piece that we're missing. How are we gonna get this person that really, that's really what that person's about, is economic development. So that's our thoughts, and we're just really brainstorming and thinking out loud and trying to get your opinions and thoughts about it as well. So I know it is confusing. I totally agree with you on that.
Well,
Let's just wait till we get the.
yeah, the presentation was confusing.
Sure, yeah.
The individual concepts are not confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, and I get that, and maybe I shouldn't have started out with the concept of Flat River Connect and just went to the economic developer and just covered that and just focused on that. And maybe that's what we can do moving forward, because I'm getting the sense, I guess I'll ask the question, but I'm getting the sense that there is support to move forward to put together a job description and bring that back to you, finalize the job description, and then post a position for a full-time economic development person.
least show it to us.
Yeah, okay. All right, we'll keep moving forward on that, and we'll give it a job description, we'll bring that back.
Okay.
And then what you have in front of you is what I believe the potential impact would be on the budget. That's what I need to know.
Okay. Okay, no other new business at all, so any reports and member comments?
I have a question. I'm just wondering about if we have terms for our board, because I know, like, when I came in, I took somebody's spot when Jim came and asked me. And then he came back and said it was up, which I don't know, I've never gotten anything to say if we have actual terms in that. And I'm just wondering with Shelley not being here for so long, if there's terms that's gonna be up. I know everybody wants to get a letter from her, but it's obviously not happening. I think we kind of need that vote for certain things, and to have that gone every month is not really helping us, especially when there's not enough folks here half the time, so.
Okay. I don't want
Do we
to-
have terms?
There are terms, they're on the website, we track it, there's staff assigned to work with the mayor to make sure that he knows that appointments are coming up, so.
Do we know when hers is up?
It's January 1st, 2016.
It's just a couple of months.
Yeah.
Have you thought of anyone to replace her?
That'll be up to the mayor and the council. If you have any suggestions, have them contact the city hall. There's a application for people to fill out. So if you know of anybody that's interested in serving on the DDA, they can fill that out, turn it into city hall, and then we get that to the mayor and the council.
Okay. Anybody else? Cliff? Mike? Dean? Brian? Next meeting, December 10. Sound right? Okay. December 1 is a Tuesday, so be the second Thursday of the month, so December 10. Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Dean, is there a second?
Second.
Brian, any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone else, anyone opposed can stay here.